Welcome, my dears. Welcome to Mistakes Were Made. Welcome back to the dining room table. Today, we are going to be doing the budget with me for the second pay period of December. So that covers the 16th through the 31st. This is the last budget with me in December. It is the last budget with me for 2024. How crazy is that? I cannot believe how quickly this year has gone by. But we've got a lot to cover this video. We are going to do the budget with me, and we are also going to take a moment to discuss a little bit of the detail on Mr. M's loan, car loan, as well as some of the changes that we are going to be seeing financially in 2025. Some of them are not quite our choice, but some of them we have made some decisions about how we are allocating our money, and so we will get into that after we finish this. So let's see what the money has to say. I'm gonna zoom in here, get all close up. Now, if this is the first video of ours you have seen, welcome. I hope you take some time to check out some of our other videos, especially our debt confession video, which is from October of 2023, so over a year ago, and kind of see where we started and see where we are now. And of course, if you've been following us, whether it's just for a couple of videos so far or all the way from the beginning, welcome back, and thank you so much, so much for the continued support. All right, so what are we working with this pay period? Basically, all of the information that we're going to be putting down here is, as far as I can tell, kind of locked in stone just because of the timing that we're doing this. We have most of the actual information, and unless we have something weird happen or unexpected costs, the hope is we are going to be right on target with all of this info. So Mr. M's pay is $1,908.91. And then mine is $2,443.16. I am looking at a little bit of a cheat sheet, just as an FYI, if there's some delays or my voice starts sounding a little weird because I'm looking slightly away. For miscellaneous income, we are going to transfer the healthcare allotment that we outlined in the previous video, because I need to pay my first healthcare premium before the what is this? Don't get distracted. Okay, before the actual healthcare starts in 2025. So we took half of it out of last pay period, and then the second half is going to be in this pay period, and that's kind of how we're going to go about it going forward as well. Etsy, we're not going to guesstimate any kind of income for that. You just don't know if anybody's going to be making any purchases. And to be fair, since we are well into the holiday time frame and what we have for offer in our Etsy shop aren't really gift type items, I wouldn't be surprised if we don't have any sales during this time period. The buffer is $200.26. So let's add that all up. We've got 1908, let me scrooge that just a bit, 91 plus 2443.16 plus 206.28 plus $200.26, which leaves us with you guys can't see, $4,758.61. Next, we've got our regularly occurring costs, and actually, hold on, I need to do some maintenance real quick. Okay, voila. So again, we are using these sheets, which are not updated for our current situation until they're done. So we're going to have to kind of make things work as best as possible. These are first pay period costs, so we're going to mark those out. We do have the second of 2 mortgage payments, and this is going to be the health care premium, which is $206. The share for this pay period is $206.28, but because we need to pay the entire amount, and of course, as we said, we rolled over what was there from the previous pay period, we're going to put the entire amount in for the cost section, so $412.56. Now, our electric bill and our gas bill, we already know what those are. Those tend to be fairly variable. This time it's $149.22 for the electric bill, and the gas bill has definitely shot up. It was around $33 last month, and we are well above that at $89.25. Is that a surprise? No. We have officially gotten into the colder season. Our furnace is kicking on. So no real surprises there. I think what we will be needing to keep an eye on is when we're doing our budget with me, is if we haven't seen the actual bill yet and we're using what we're considering our guesstimate amount, which for this colder period is $175 for both the electric and the gas bill. We need to see if that's kind of an accurate number. If we're finding that the actual costs are bumping well over 175, then we're going to have to bump that up, because we don't want to put ourselves in the position of expecting a lower amount of money coming out of the account, or that we need to be paying. I would much rather we overestimate how much we're going to need to pay and then be happily surprised that life has cost a little less than the alternative. So we also have our internet at $101 and our phone bill at $90.12. So let's add this all up. We have $875 plus $412.56 plus $149.22 plus $89.25 plus $101 plus $90.12. So that gives us a total cost of $17.17.15, and we'll subtract that from our $47.58.61 income total, which leaves us with a remainder of $304,146. And it's a little tough to keep the calculator in so you can see the mathing as it happens and also have room to write and everything. Since this is the second pay period, we do have a regular payment of $25 that goes into the emergency fund, and then we're going to just have our basic buffer amount of $200, which will get adjusted at the end. So total, we have $225. We still have our running total here, so we'll add the $225 to that. That puts us at $2,816.46. Okay, so next we have our cash envelopes. Again, if you're new, these are all of the envelopes or sinking funds, just depends on how you want to refer to them, that we fund every month. Some of them just during the first pay period, some of them just during the second pay period, which is what we're in now, and then there are some that we fund during both. This is what the section that we are going to be going over at the end of this video and discussing changes that are going to be put into place starting in 2025. All right, so what are we dealing with right now? However, we've got $13 for AAA, $12 for birthdays, nothing for car maintenance, $12 for Christmas, $5, I believe. Are we doing clothing? Yes, $5 for clothing. Dining out and entertainment and garden yard don't get anything during this pay period. Gas gets $100. Gifts get $5, as I recall. I almost said 500. That would be an amazing budget for us to have if that was the case. Giving does not get anything right now. Groceries gets $200. Health gets $10. Household does not get anything. Licenses gets $11. If you hear some minor rambunctiousness in the background, that's because Cece, one of our cats, is, I don't know what she's doing. Acrobatics, I guess. We have Miss Athena, who is looking incredibly grumpy at Cece right now, but she's being very quiet. Pets gets $160. Prime gets $12, and taxes gets $20. All right, so let's do the math. We have 13, 12, 12, 5, 100, 5, 200, 10, 11, 160, 12, and 20 for a total of $560. And so we will subtract our running income total, which is at $2,816.46. And that puts us at $256.46. Okay. Now I've mentioned already, but I'll mention it here again, we do have this debt section. However, we are not going to be utilizing it in the same way we were before. We were dealing with our shared credit card debt. These were costs that were coming out of our checking account, our shared checking account, and they were credit cards, so they had a specific payment schedule that we had to adhere to. So we needed to put a debt payment line item in the budget and actually pay money, on that cadence. We, thank goodness, have paid off our last credit card, shared credit card, the Discover card. So that is no longer in place. So we don't need to indicate a debt payment within each of the pay periods. Instead, because the debt that we are focusing on is now Mr. M's car loan, he's the one that has the burden of that regular monthly payment requirement. It comes out of his own checking account. So what we're doing is we are going to wait until the end of each pay period after everything's said and done, and we see how much money we have left over, and then we're going to make any debt payments at that point. So we'll still use this section to denote how much we end up putting, or at least for right now, what we're thinking we're going to be able to put towards the car loan, but it's not going to be a dedicated specific line item that is part of the actual budget itself. So instead, we will just copy over the income amount from the last section. All right, then we've got my guilt-free spending here. We can do the math ourselves, 2236. We can't do the math ourselves. Hey, you know what? I have my handy dandy this stuff. Oh, mercy me. I would just figure that I was bold enough to think that I can do math. Oh, mercy. Okay, so, that's going to be ugly. 2226.46 is the end result. Oh boy, this is kind of ugly. There we go. We are going to move on. We have $100 that is going to go to yard cleanup. I've mentioned this before as well. This is going to be the last payment that we put towards yard cleanup for the next 5 pay periods. Those 5 pay periods, we are going to be funding the garden. That should put us right about the beginning of March, which is right around the time that we start planting out our earliest plants, particularly when we're direct sowing into the garden. I expect that we'll probably start doing some seed starting probably in February at some point for stuff that we're going to get started indoors, but needs to wait a little bit to go out. We may even wait until, depending on what it is, like tomatoes and peppers, those we might actually wait until late March, maybe even early April to get started, just because they don't do well if we put them in the garden earlier than about mid-May. So anyway, a little bit of extra information you probably didn't need or want. Leftover income, we will figure that out in just a second because we've got $100 to go here. We are going to do the math on this ourselves, and we're going to do it right. We started with 22, 26, 46, so now we're going to be at 21, 26, 46. Okay. So now we are at a little bit of a crossroads. We have already, shown in previous videos one of my absolute favorite changes or adjustments we made to how we handle our budget and our extra money, and that is the 75-25 rule. If you're new, basically what we were doing previously was we were dividing this up between debt and savings, and we were doing it in a ratio of 75% towards debt, 25% towards savings. As we got closer and we only had the Discover card left, we kind of ratcheted that up and changed the ratio to 90% towards debt and 10% towards savings. Now, as we did during the last pay period, we kind of threw that out and did a more scattershot option where we utilized the resource we had and extended it across multiple areas. So the question for us is kind of, do we give up on that 75-25 ratio or, facsimile of that? Do we keep with that and just focus on debt and savings? Do we do the ratio, but for the savings section, actually do the scattershot method with the savings dollar amount? There are a lot of options that we have right now, and we're still kind of figuring out what is going to be best for us. If we look at this from the 90% standpoint, 2026 minus 90% would give us $212 for savings, and for debt, take 2126 minus 212 would give us $1,914. So, that's not a bad option there, and really it is very close to what we kind of decided we are going to do with this particular pay period. The bottom line is, because we are intending for our emergency fund to be made whole by the end of this month based on, Christmas gift expectations, we are not going to put that into rotation as far as where we absolutely need to put some of this money. Instead, we want to focus as heavily as possible without giving up the opportunity to be a little bit flexible with other areas that might need some money on Mr. M's car loan. Now, there's multiple reasons for that. First and foremost, it's the debt, and that's what we're trying to bring down. We obviously want to knock that out as soon as we can. But I think the biggest piece of it is, as you may know, I love to do my spreadsheets, and I run scenarios, just all sorts of scenarios, just so I can have a sense of an idea of what the future might hold. Obviously, as you go further and further out into the future, it becomes less and less sure. Anything can happen to throw, a monkey wrench into the works. But bottom line is, I have run the numbers. So if I were to continue to work all the way through June, I know what that looks like. let me just say right now, there is absolutely no possibility of me working through June. June is not on the table. However, I have run the numbers. It's just the way I am. I have also run the numbers to see what things look like financially if I were to lose my job at the end of December, at the end of January, at the end of February, at the end of, every single month up into June as well. So that is all to say, just like with the Discover card, we have determined that there is a path for us to pay off Mr. M's car loan by the end of March. The caveat, just again with the Discover card, is I would need to be working through March. And though previously my boss had said, when we're looking at the big picture, I could see that it seems like the absolute latest that we could be working is through the end of March. Things in the background have kind of changed at work. There are some actions and activities that are potential. Nothing has officially been done yet. They're in the works. And if things go down this specific path, then it would essentially eliminate the need for my team and a team or two that is still in place. So not really sure how that particular situation is going to go. There would need to be actions and approvals and stuff that goes through the court for anything official to be done. So I don't know what the likelihood of things being approved, of things being denied, what needs to happen for this to go down the route that it seems most likely that it's going to go. And I apologize for being so vague about this. I just don't feel comfortable discussing details about it because it is not something that is finalized. It is not something that I believe is necessarily public yet. So I really need to keep it vague and lacking in detail. As soon as it becomes a thing that is, been presented and is out there, then I can speak on it in a little bit more detail, but I don't feel comfortable doing that at the moment. But suffice to say, there would be a very direct impact on how long I would be working, depending on how this situation would go. So that is to put out there that the end of March is looking really, really, really unlikely. There's even question about whether February would be on the table, depending on how this situation lands. So, how is that any different than any other month that we've been dealing with? Technically, it's not. Every single month since we've gotten word about the bankruptcy back in August of last year, we have been working essentially month to month. We'll work in, December to take a more current date, and then find out mid-December, yes, you're going to be working in January. You get into January, mid-January, you get the yes or no that you're working in February, et cetera, et cetera. So this isn't really changing the landscape for us and how things are going. It's just potentially shortening the runway as far as how long we could potentially be working. And so if my spreadsheets have said, hey, in order to pay off Mr. M's car loan, right now the numbers say you need to be working through March, and that's looking like it's not going to be a possibility. We want to make at least as big of an impact as we can while we have the resources that we can. So that was a whole long spiel just to get to that point. And so with that in mind, we decided we want to we'll put loan, and no, we'll just put car loan here, $2,000 towards the car. It's a very, very robust amount. It would make a nice impact, but it also still leaves us with $126 that we can still do something with. So that's why we're not doing the 90-10, because we don't quite get to that $2,000 mark that we wanted to hit. But we now have $126, so how are we going to use that? What we decided was we still want to be putting money towards job loss savings. One, the more money that we put in there just in general, the better for us in the long run. But two, we do have additional costs coming down the pipeline. So again, if we can bulk this up, that's helpful. So we're looking at putting $50 to that. Pets is a constant right now, a constant thorn in our side. So $50 there. Every little extra helps to try and keep things, if not pushing forward, so we start to rebuild an actual sinking fund, at least keep us so that we are not pulling money out of unallocated costs at this time. And so that leaves us with $26. And what we decided was similar to when we were dealing with multiple credit cards. So we were like doing the Citibank card or the Reflect card. We would do our 90-20 or 75-25. And then I had that kind of weird rule where I wanted nice round numbers of the payment to debt needed to be end in 00, 25, 50, or 75. And that activity meant that there would be a little bit of money left over each time, something between $1 and $24. And we then put that little extra towards the Discover card. We're going to do something a little bit like that, but we're not married to the payment amount needs to be a nice round number or anything like that. It'll just be whatever we have decided to go to, like in this case, job savings and pets, that happens to be a nice round number of $100. And so there's $26 for us to, now determine where it's going to go. When we have that situation with that extra bit, it's going to go to the emergency fund. So in this case, $26. The reason why we're choosing that is we do have an emergency fund goal of being fully funded, and by that we mean 12 months worth of expenses. Our current expenses are $5,900. That is what our budget is right now. So we rounded that up to $6,000 just for, easy math. So ultimately, we are looking to someday have $72,000 saved. That is an incredibly lofty goal. And if all goes the way we're expecting, by the end of this month, we will have $1,350 in there. So we are very, very, very far from that goal. So that's why we want to be dropping just a little bit here and there where we can to start bulking that up. Now, I do want to point out the job savings is essentially an emergency fund. If we had our hands all wrapped around our finances, if we had been doing everything that they say you're supposed to do and had an emergency fund in place, and a robust one before we found out about the bankruptcy and everything, that's what we would have been tapping to cover while I was off work. But we didn't have anything like that in place, so we needed to build one. It is essentially an emergency fund. We've just been calling it a job loss savings. And the intention is, hopefully I find a job before we end up draining it. And then the money that is in there, as a general rule, we are expecting to fund into the officially named emergency fund and get that much closer to our ultimate goal. So anyway, that's where we are. We are hoping to be able to make a $2,000 payment to the car loan and then $50 each to job savings and the pets, and then have that extra $26 go to the emergency fund. Of course, life loves to throw, everything and anything at you, so things could come and upset the apple cart. Our hope is, if that is to happen, that we are at the very least able to maintain the ability to make this $2,000 payment. These areas over here are a little bit more sacrificial. We won't be all that upset if we're not able to fund them. Here's where our main goal is. Okay, so with that said, now the question has come up of what is the situation with Mr. M's car. So I didn't want to get into details last pay period because things were still in flux. He had his standard payment that he was making. We were already in the process of, determining we're going to be putting some money towards the loan. And so I just wanted all of that to be settled before we got into details. So as of right now, Mr. M's car loan is $12,710.04. Not amazing, but could certainly be worse. He has a 2.99% interest rate, which is great from what I am hearing is going on out there right now. He has a payment amount. I wrote it down. Where did I write it down? Oh, mercy. I don't know where I wrote it down. And so now we're going to be a little bit off, which is not fantastic. It's 396 something. I think maybe 04, but then maybe I'm pulling that from there. It's less than $400, but every month he needs to pay $396 and some change. He does pay $400 every month, so a little bit over what the required payment is. And I believe he is on either a 72 or an 84 month loan. So he still has some time left, but of course we want to get this knocked out as soon as possible. So payments like this are going to be incredibly helpful. This is not the first time that we've had a big payment to knock down in a relatively small amount of time. So fingers crossed that we are able to do that. I don't know if there's anything else pertinent that we need to share. We are able to make principal only payments. The payment that we did, the $600 payment that we did last pay period, that's what we did. So we are expecting the interest that he gets charged each month to slowly start to go down as we make these payments. I think that's it. So yeah, it would be wonderful if we had the ability to knock this down under 10,000 by the end of this month, but that is out of range. We would need another, $711 to be able to do that. But that's okay. 2,000 is nothing to sneeze at. All right, so that's where we are. That's the hope and expectation for the second pay period of December. And now we are going to look at what changes are coming for, you can't really see very well, can you? All right, hopefully you can see okay. I don't want to zoom it so close because it's going to kind of not be great. But these are the changes that we are making to our sinking fund starting in 2025. So right now for AAA, we do $13 per month during the second pay period. No changes to that. We do $12 a month during the second pay period right now, but we are changing that to $15 per month. So a $3 difference. Car maintenance is $100 paid during the first pay period, no change to that. Christmas currently is $12 each pay period. We are going to be adjusting that to $25 each pay period. So a $13 per pay period increase or $26 total per month increase. Clothing, we do $5 per month during the second pay period. We are going to bump that to $10, so a $5 difference per month. Dining out, entertainment, neither of those have a change. We currently fund $50 each during the first pay period. Garden and yard, we do $25 a month during the first pay period right now. Starting in 2025, we're bumping that to $30, and we're going to move that to the second pay period. So that'll be a $5 difference. Gas, we do $100 per pay period, no changes there. Gifts, $5 per month during the second pay period, no change there. $5 for giving during the second pay period, again, no change there. And groceries, we do $100 a week, which roughly becomes $200 during each pay period. If we have a magic month during the month, then there's going to be an extra week in there, but no changes for that. Health, we currently do $10 each pay period. We are bumping that to $15 each pay period, which is going to ultimately be a $10 increase for the month. Household, just like garden yard, we do $25 during the first pay period. We are changing that to $30 and again moving it to the second pay period, which will be a $5 increase for the month. Licenses is $11 twice a month, no change there. Pets, we currently do $160 during the second pay period. We are going to change that and we're going to do $125 during each pay period. So essentially $250 a month, which is going to be a $90 increase. This is our biggest change that we're doing for our sinking funds. Prime, we do $12 a month during the second pay period, no change to that. Taxes, $20 per pay period, no change to that. So all of that said, if we add up the differences that we are making, that is going to result in a total monthly increase of $144. Now, of course, we also now have the $412.56 for health care that we are also absorbing into our budget. So that becomes a total of $556.56. Okay, so you may or may not have noticed I paused it. We had somebody come to the door, and so I had to get it off before the dog started barking and then wait for them to settle down. So yeah, $556.56 of increases starting in 2025. Like I said, some of them not really our choice, but we absolutely made the decision that the funding that we were doing on some of these things just wasn't adequate. Obviously, Christmas, we were very underfunded for that. As we all know, we have been very underfunded for pets, and some of these other areas felt like we were underfunded there. I can say we are still probably very underfunded on clothing, but in comparison to some other areas, that's not the highest of priorities. It's going to be a question whether this change that we've made for pets is going to be enough of a change. So we will be monitoring, and it may be we need to make adjustments here. Again, it's hard to say. Everything else feels like we've made a good adjustment, but again, time will tell. As we have the cost increase that seem to continue to go up, and up, we have to make adjustments. Now, I will say, even though we are seeing these increases, our monthly budget is not changing. It is still $5,900 a month. The question might be, how on earth is that possible if you're increasing your costs by this much? And the answer, 1,000%, is debt reduction. Our current budget of $5,900 includes $1,226, well, technically it was $1,225 and we boosted it arbitrarily. $1,225 worth of debt payments, that we had created that line item, as you guys know, to allow us to pay off all of our shared credit cards debts. Once those were done at the end of November, we did not take that $12.25 out of the budget. It has been in there. And so it's helped augment the money that we have at the end of each pay period. It's also now been a much welcome buffer that we are able to eat into because of these unexpected / not our choice changes and increases, and the ones that we have actively pursued. So where we had $12.25 of flexibility, we have now used up essentially $557 of that, but we retain $668 per month of flexibility in our budget. And that was 1,000% only possible because we were able to reduce that debt, because we were able to knock those debts out. We are now in a position to say that money is working for us. It's not working for the credit card company. It's not working for our debtors. It is now working for us, and we have the ability to tell it what we want it to do. Which is an amazing, amazing feeling, and it is very gratifying. And we want to have more of that. We are greedy. we want to get rid of Mr. M's car loan. We want to someday not have that mortgage payment. That one will be a huge, huge change for us, but that's years down the road. But the ability to say, you know what, we feel we need to pay ourselves in a little bit different way or better way so that we can be on top of the costs that may not be coming in every month, but might hit us at some point, and have the flexibility to do that is amazing. The fact that we were in a position to absorb this cost was amazing. If we still had our credit card debt, it would be very, very difficult for us to figure out how we are going to juggle the required payments that needed to be made to those debts. We can't not do it, as well as this. Yes, you can absolutely drop your payments down so that they're closer to the minimum, but then you're not making as much progress on getting that debt actually paid off. And you do what you have to do. The situation requires that, you know what, my minimum payment is $25 and I can only do 26. You do what you got to do. But I am very, very grateful that we made changes in our spending. We made changes in our habits. We learned and are continuing to learn to have a better relationship with money so that we could use the blessing that is our income right now to our benefit in the best way possible, to set ourselves up for a better future, especially with the understanding that my income is going to go away. And quite frankly, I am a realist, and I'm not just poo-pooing things or, trying to present a lesser situation than what will really happen. I am not anticipating I am going to be able to replace my income at the level that it is right now. That's just the reality that I am seeing out there. When I find a job, it is not going to pay me $35 an hour, which is what I currently make. So we're using what we have while we have it, and we want to make sure we're using it wisely, because eventually it's going to go or be significantly reduced. And when that happens, that's fine. We will just figure out a new plan so that we use the resources that we have in the wisest way possible. So that are I'm not grammaring well today. I am obviously not mathing well today. It is time for me to say goodbye. This is one of our longer videos, but these are the changes that we are expecting to see in 2025. They are not the only changes. I have mentioned that our mortgage company does do an assessment every year, and because of the continued increased costs of property taxes and homeowners insurance, our mortgage payment amount goes up each year. So we'll have to kind of wait and see what that's going to look like. But we do still have some room in the budget to be able to absorb that, and still potentially have money left over to do additional debt reduction. Now, I will throw out there really quickly before we close, when we get Mr. M's car payment paid off, there will be an adjustment that he makes on his end, because right now his paycheck gets split. A set amount of money goes into his checking account, and then all the rest comes into our joint checking account. So he's going to be making an adjustment to the amount that goes into his checking account, and we will see that amount or that benefit drop into our shared checking account, which will change things somewhat as far as, how much we need each month to be pulled out of the job loss savings to cover our budget, as well as what minimum paying job I can reasonably go for and us still be able to meet our requirements. Obviously, my goal is going to be to find the highest paying job that I am qualified for and can get, but it's good to know, you can't accept anything lower than X dollar amount as well, so that you're keeping things where they need to be. All right, that's enough. That is enough. I have been blabbing on for far too long, so thank you if you have stuck with me through this whole thing. If you have feedback, if you have questions, if you have concerns, anything like that, please note those down below. As I have mentioned, I do very much appreciate them, especially when they're offered, with good intentions and all of that. Hateful comments, please give me a pass. You can find somewhere else to put those. But no, everybody has been incredibly supportive and incredibly kind. So I really do appreciate you taking the time to watch and taking the time to leave a comment here and there. So all that said, I hope we'll see you in the next one. Bye now.